look at the Mets behind it, Tom.
The defense for the Mets behind Bobby Ojeda, Kevin McReynolds in left field, Juan Samuel, who the Mets picked up from the Philadelphia Phillies in center, Joe Strawberry customarily in right, Hojo at third base, having an MVP season, Kevin Elster at short, Greg Jeffries at second, Dave Magadan today at first base, and Gary Carter starting behind the plate for the Mets.
So here we go with Alfredo Griffin, Willie Randolph, and Eddie Murray, the 8th meeting of the year between the two teams. The Dodgers have a slight edge. They've won 4 of 7. Remember last year, the Mets beat the Dodgers 10 out of 11, only to have the Dodgers pull the rug out from under them in the League Championship Series. At the start of the game, the Mets are 3.5 games behind the Cubs. The Dodgers are 13 behind San Francisco. Alfredo is hit in 6 out of 9, hitting over 300 in August, and doing very well as a leadoff man. Right. 2-1. We've had a torrential downpour about 10 o'clock this morning in New York. Then that slacked off. Then it rained pretty hard about an hour and a half ago, and that has stopped. The field is in excellent shape. That is to say, the skin part, the outfield, would very well be treacherous and could be a factor where an outfielder slips or even falls down in pursuit of a ball. 2-2. Bruce Fremming is the plate umpire. Terry Tata, Dana DeMuth, and Steve Ripley working the line. The Dodgers have not generated an offense all year, which is why they find themselves so far behind the Giants. Here's ball 4. In fact, to point it up, the Dodgers have lost 12 games this year when they have scored 2 runs or less. They have had great pitching, and yet they've lost 12 where they've allowed 2 runs or less. 4 times this year, the Dodgers have lost games 1-0, and 5 times they've lost games by the score of 2-1. Here's Willie Randolph.
Well, that is wasting some good pitching, isn't it?
Isn't that remarkable?
It's awful, yeah. Not being able to get the runs across. The Dodgers, just lack of runs, always historically, as you well know, Vinny, a great pitching staff they have almost every year, going back to Koufax and Drysdale and Osteen, all the names that they've had historically. A great pitching ball club.
1 ball, no strike. Big chopper over the mound behind second, flagged by Elster, who juggles, throws, and got him. What a play by Kevin Elster. Fully extended to spear the ball, and he was not in control of it. And he fought it and got his man as Griffin reaches second safely.
Kevin goes a long way for this ball. Gets it right behind second base. No chance for the double play as Jeffries crossed behind him. Good composure to keep the ball in front of him and be able to get Randolph going to first base. I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have gotten Willie Randolph on that play.
We were talking to Davey Johnson last night and talking about the success of the Mets since August 1st. As Eddie Murray drives one, and it's slicing into the gap, and on the run is Samuel to pick it off. Alfredo tags up and moves to third. So Ojeda is very fortunate. Just to conclude the thought, Davey Johnson said not only the remarkable pitching, but the great play of Kevin Elster is why they're 14-4 since the 1st of August. And we've already seen Elster make a big play, and now a fine play by Samuel.
2 fine defensive plays for the Mets. Now remember, this outfield, we had a lot of rain here about 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and the footing can get very slippery out there. Samuel, blessed with great speed, got a terrific jump on the ball.
So you can see how big a play Elster's was on the ground ball by Randolph. If that goes through, Griffin goes to third, and he scores easily on the ball hit by Murray. Instead, you have 2 down, a runner at third, and Mike Marshall trying to pick him up. He's hitting 15 out of 16. He has an 8-game hitting streak. 2-0. Marshall had 1 hit last night to keep his streak alive. Alfredo Griffin at third. 2 out in the first inning. We're just starting. Bob Ojeda and John Wetland. Turned that over like a screwball and dropped low, ball 3.
Ojeda fell behind Griffin, and Randolph hit a 1-ball, no-strike pitch. He's fallen behind Marshall here 2-0. One of the complaints that Davy Johnson had about Ojeda is that he was not aggressive enough. His strikeout, his base-on-ball ratio, last year he averaged about 1.5 walks per game. This year it's up almost 4 per game. Bobby has won 4 games. He had a game against Atlanta and pitched very poorly, pitched very timidly, was not aggressive. Davy Johnson came out in the press and really blasted him. I mean, vocally in the press blasted him. Since that time, Bobby has won 4 straight and has pitched effectively. One of the things about a control pitcher, and Bobby is a control pitcher, using the off-speed pitch and turning the ball over, you just can't pitch behind. The one person that can pitch behind will be a power pitcher that can get out of a 3-0 count by striking somebody out. Bobby Ojeda is not going to strike somebody out.
Runners at the corners, and the batter is Jeff Hamilton. And that's a strike, 0-1. If you look at Ojeda's numbers, like so many pitchers, he gets tougher as the game progresses. So he is accustomed to early problems in a ball game. 2 on, 2 out, first inning, no score. And that's hammered to center, but there's Samuel making the sliding catch, and Bob Ojeda living a charmed life in the first inning, thanks to dazzling plays by Elster and Samuel, and the Dodgers failed to score when they might have had a ton. And at the end of half an inning, the Dodgers nothing, and the Mets coming. Juan Samuel and Howard Johnson, followed by Darryl Strawberry, Kevin McReynolds, and Dave Magadan, with Gary Carter, Kevin Elster, and Bob Ojeda picking up the rear. The Mets have won 7 out of 9 on this homestand, and young John Wetland making his 6th Major League start, and starts with a strike. Wetland, 3-4. He is 1-2 as a starter. He earned a win in his Major League debut in May against Montreal. Off speed, 1-1. The key to Wetland will be his curveball. He has a pretty good arm. I mean, he can get it up to the 90s. But the question is, can he get his curveball over for a strike? He's got 11 wild pitches, part of his problem. Fastball, hammered to right. Marshall with the ball over his head, a full turn to pick it off. You talk about Major League outfield play, that was it. When you can do a 360 and find the ball, that's remarkable.
You know, look, we've had 4 outs in the ball game. Willie Randolph, Kevin Elster made a great play on him. Eddie Murray hit the ball, Samuel ran it down. Jeff Hamilton hit the ball on the nose. Samuel made a diving catch, and here, Jeffries a line drive and a great play by Marshall. I mean, we have 4 outs and 4 balls that could be legitimately base hits.
Well, there's the first curveball that Wetland tried to throw, and it's all the way to the backstop, and that's his problem. Samuel made 2 dazzling plays in the first inning on Eddie Murray, and then this one on Jeff Hamilton, barely getting it before it hit the wet grass. That was a sinker into right center. Juan making a fine play.
And doing a 360 himself, wasn't he?
We need some Olympic judges. Fastball. Wetland was originally drafted by the New York Mets. He was a 12th round draft pick, chose not to sign. Eventually, the Dodgers signed him and then lost him to Detroit. And Detroit took him to spring training and were not particularly impressed and sent him back to the Dodgers. And in this year, where the Dodgers have been struggling, he had his opportunity. He was recalled the 31st of May from Albuquerque, and he has impressed. He's got that live arm you hear so much about. 2-2. But again, we've seen him throw 1 curveball here in the first inning, and he threw that to the backstop. And that's the good insight into what kind of a pitcher he'll be today. 2-2. Fastball hit into left field. And if these hitters feel that he's not going to throw that curveball for strikes, they're going to sit on that fastball, and they'll wear even the best of you.
Unless you throw like Nolan Ryan. Even if you have an outstanding fastball, you cannot prove to the opposition, the opposing hitters, that you can get both pitches over the plate, you're in deep trouble.
Well,
Give Major League hitters a chance to sit on one pitch. They're going to beat you every time.
well, he's in some trouble now. Howard Johnson followed by Darryl Strawberry as Tommy Lasorda and Coach Joe Ferguson sit there and sweat it out for young John Wetland. Howard Johnson, 29 home runs, 32 stolen bases. So he needs one home run to have another 30-30 year. That's just right. It would be the second time he became a 30-30 man. You might notice, for style, that he has rolled up his sleeve. Why does he roll up his sleeves? Because Darryl Strawberry rolls up his sleeve. You remember earlier when Lenny Dykstra was here, he was wearing a boogie board bracelet, and all the Mets were wearing those. I guess some of the Phillies are doing it now.
You got that during the game. When did you do that? Did you ever give that back?
No, I kept it, and it didn't improve my hitting. There's Strawberry. You can see his sleeves are rolled. So fads are fads, even in the big league.
There was a skinny kid when he came to the big league. See the size of him now? Boy, he is really put together.
0-1, the count to Howard Johnson. And there goes Samuel. The pitch is low, the throw is late, and the Mets have a runner at second base. Samuel.
One of the keys to stealing second base is getting the right pitch to run on here. A breaking ball by Wetland. Samuel, who has now stolen 28 out of 38. A good jump. Kosher really doesn't have a chance here because of the breaking ball.
And he never looked back. It was a straight steal. There was no confusion on that. And as you can see, Samuel really running for the Mets in comparison to what he was doing with the Phillies. Because he's a great offensive machine if he reaches. He has that habit of striking out a lot. But when he gets aboard, look out. 1-1 to Howard Johnson. A high fly ball to right. He didn't get much of it. Marshall has to come up and almost fell down. And that's something we have to keep in mind all day. After the heavy rain, Marshall's feet almost went out from under him. And if those feet go out from under you, those are feet.
What size are they?
About a 13.
Again, a lot of rain here before the game. Talking to Pete Flynn, the groundskeeper here at Shea Stadium, and he said more rain is expected. Nothing really heavy, he said, is expected, but there are possibility of sprinkles and a little light showers throughout the day.
Darryl Strawberry now trying to pick up Samuel. And the fastball strike, 0-1. John Wetland, a very interesting young man, besides being a fine young pitcher. He is a poet, and maybe later on we can have him recite some poetry, his own. He is also an accomplished musician. He plays the guitar exceptionally well. High fly ball on that straight changeup. And Mike Huff in left field will put it away. No runs, one hit. Happy music for John Wetland, who has the proper last name for this game today. Certainly the Dodgers came as close as you can come in the first inning with 3 shots, and the Mets came up with superb defensive plays to bail out Bobby Ojeda. Jose Gonzalez, Mike Huff, and Rick Dempsey for 1-0. The Mets 3.5 games back, but boy, was that a big lift for both divisions in the National League last night when Houston came from behind and beat the Cubs. Cubs leading at one stage 5-0. The Astros coming up with 2 in the 8th and 2 in the 9th to win it. And of course, first of all, it gave Houston new life. The Giants had won, so they remained 3 back. And in the East, the Mets and Montreal got a little closer. Fly ball into left center. McReynolds picks it off. 1 down. The East shapes up this way because of that come-from-behind victory by Houston. The Mets 3.5, Montreal, and then the Cardinals 6.5. And in the aftermath of that Cub-Houston game last night, everyone here in the ballpark was talking about the play that was in the newspapers. Bottom of the 9th inning, a 5-5 tie, 2 out. The Astros have runners at first and second. Strike. The pitcher is Jeff Pico. The hitter is the left-hand hitting Harry Spillman. The on-deck hitter is Rafael Ramirez, a right-hand batter. 0-1. And Don Zimmer had Jeff Pico walk Harry Spillman intentionally with runners at first and second now. That loaded the bases and put the winning run at third. And then Pico fell behind 3-1 and walked Ramirez, and the game was history. Have you ever seen or heard of an intentional walk with runners at first and second?
You know, I was just thinking about a game in Houston, and I don't remember the exact situation, but I pitched a round where I walked somebody, a right-handed hitter.
Fly ball to left field. McReynolds coming up for it. 2 down.
In the back of my mind, I can't remember the name of it, but it was whoever it was. Evidently, I had not had much success against him. And Milt May, remember the left-hand hitting catcher with the Astros and the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I had seemed to have had a success against him. And I said, well, I really feel like I ought to pitch to the left-hander, which is going against all the odds, you know. And you look great if you come out on top. You look like an absolute buffoon if you don't. So I walk the right-hander to pitch to the left-hander.
But you did that. You pitched around him. I know Eddie Lopat said he did that several times, especially when there are particularly tough hitters and a weaker hitter back. But how about an intentional pass ordered by the manager to load the bases with a young pitcher?
I can't remember ever
on the road in the ninth. I remember here in New York a long time ago during World War II, Mel Ott was the manager of the New York Giants. They were playing the Chicago Cubs in the Polo Grounds. 2 balls and no strikes in there. The Cubs got the bases loaded with 2 outs, and Bill Nicholson, the home run hitter at the plate.
Right.
And Nicholson hit something like 5 home runs in the series. Scores 10-7 Giants in the 8th inning. Mel Ott walked Bill Nicholson intentionally with the bases loaded. That made it 10-8. He got the next guy to end the inning, and they won the game 10-8. And I figured that's the only time in history a manager ever walked a hitter with the bases loaded. And yet, some of the American League scouts told me that once it happened with Ted Williams, where he got an intentional walk with the bases loaded. So last night in Houston, they gave an intentional walk with runners at first and second. And the bottom line is always, how'd you come out?
How'd you come out? That's right. If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't work, well, you're up for a lot of criticism. I've had that same situation. I pitched 1 game in San Francisco and the bases loaded, and Willie McCovey was the batter. I said, I don't really care if this pitch, there was a 3-2 pitch, is ball 4. It doesn't make any difference. I'd rather give up the 1 than the 4.
Here's John Wetland now. 1 ball and no strikes. Bob O'Heed is really struggling.
To finish that story about the Houston game, when I pitched around the hitter to get the Milt May, first pitch single to right field, the game's over. Bus leaves in 45 minutes.
The other thing, though, where were you in your career at that time? Were you an established star?
And I was throwing hard, too.
Yeah, right. Here is a young pitcher. That's quite a burden to put on.
Yeah. But you know that Don Zimmer he's been wheeling a magic wand over there. He's doing a terrific job, as Davey Johnson has been doing with this ball club the last 3 weeks.
Appropriate enough to show Davey Johnson after the story about Don Zimmer, because Johnson hates to give up an intentional walk. In fact, one of the trademarks of Davey Johnson, and maybe it was because he was a home run hitter and hated to get intentional walks when he played. Year in and year out, the Mets lead the league in fewest intentional walks, and they continue to lead this year. Fouled away. 2-2 the count to John Wetland. No score in the second inning. Ojeda has walked 3, but he's had 3 wonderful plays back of him in the first inning, so there's no score.
You talked about how he gets better as he goes along, Vinny, and sometimes that's true. You need a couple of good plays early in the game where a pitcher can get in his rhythm and establish himself on the mound. Sometimes you just need a good play.
Gets you out of a struggle now.
Yeah, gets you out of it. He is struggling. 3-2, 3-0, 1-0. He's just not the kind of pitcher that can pitch like that, especially to the pitcher here.
Full count. Dempsey ready to go. Foul back.
Talking to Buddy Harrelson before the game, reminiscing. Of course, we played together for about 10 or 11 years. A lot of times I come out of the bullpen, and I know some experienced pitchers do. They'll go right to the shortstop and say, listen, play 2 steps to pull until I tell you everything is all right. There you see Buddy Harrelson, Davy Johnson's right-hand man. I go to him and say, listen, play to pull 2 steps, and if I get going in the 3rd or 4th inning, I'll move you back to the regular spot.
John Wetland goes 3-2 and strikes out, and so Bobby Ojeda doing somewhat of a high wire act in the first 2 innings, but he's made it across. Ojeda in a conversation with left-hander Sid Fernandez. Fernandez will pitch tomorrow against Ramon Martinez in the final game of the series. So 2 left-handers exchanging ideas. For Bob Ojeda, he needs an idea. He has walked 3. He went 3-2 to John Wetland and struck him out, and he was bailed out in the first inning if you weren't with us. Fine play by Kevin Elster on Randolph, and 2 dazzlers by Juan Samuel in center. So bottom of the second, no score. Kevin McReynolds, Dave Magadan, and Gary Carter against young John Wetland. McReynolds having a big August now. He's hit .345 in the month. He has hit in 8 straight. He hit for the cycle on the 1st of August at St. Louis. Tries to bunt his way aboard because Hamilton was deep. 0-1.
Even if it's just to show Jeff Hamilton that he will at least try to bunt to bring him in maybe a step or 2. Even conceivably bunting the ball and missing it on purpose just to get Wetland in a little bit.
Breaking ball down, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Not Wetland, excuse me, Hamilton.
When you look at the New York Mets, you realize on the 31st of July in St. Louis, they lost their 7th straight game, and they went from 3 to 7 games back on Montreal. And they have just really put it together starting the 1st of August. They've won 14 out of 18, and they are suddenly a factor. And one reason is the splendid hitting of the big 3 in the lineup. Johnson, Strawberry, and McReynolds, plus the great pitching. So McReynolds has now hit in 9 straight. The batter is Dave Magadan. Keith Hernandez, who's been bothered with a strain in the leg, started last night's game, walked twice, and had to come out in the 5th inning. So Magadan finished up last night, and Dave is back in the starting lineup today. Ball 1. About that Mets 7-game losing streak at the end of July, it was just a few hours later that the Mets obtained Frank Viola, and things really moved on. The Mets swept the series with the Cardinals, moved within 4 of the Expos, won 2 out of 3 in Philadelphia. It's been a totally different ball club ever since. And remember, Dwight Gooden hasn't pitched since July the 1st, the game we did in Cincinnati when Gooden hurt his arm.
You know, we saw this club, the Mets, in Chicago playing the Cubs, and they talked to some of the scouts, and they would tell you that this is a ball club. Many of the scouts feel have the best talent, but it looked like we're in Chicago, where it was 3 weeks, a month ago, it looked like they didn't want to play, didn't want to win. And then all of a sudden, something kicked in somewhere along the line. It looks mentally like a totally different ball club. In a really blasé attitude in Chicago. And then in the last 3 weeks, they have just been ripping it up.
The one thing they're going to have to do, though, is improve dramatically on the road. They're a team that is 10 games under on the road. And after Wednesday, the Mets have 35 games left, and 22 of them will be on the road. So they're going to have to get their act together or else. 2-1 the count to Dave Magadan. For instance, going head-to-head with the Cubs in Wrigley Field, the Cubs have beaten the Mets 6 out of 7. So that's the area where they need marked improvement.
They played extremely well at home, 43-20 here at Shea Stadium.
The difference, too, between the National and the American League, each National League team has 2 series left with each of the other 5 teams in its division. So those series will begin in 2 weeks on Labor Day, when there will be exactly 4 weeks left in the season. And National League teams will play Cubs from the other division until then. So starting Labor Day, the heat will really be on. Nobody out here in the second. 3-2 the count to Magadan. McReynolds going on the last pitch. He has stolen 15 out of 20. There he goes. Fouled away again. Magadan, good hitter to put a run and hit play on.
Good contact hitter.
Yeah.
Very few strikeouts. Great back control. Will go to the opposite way. The Mets, of course, are a running ball club. Fourth in the National League in stolen bases. Here you see their third base coach, Sam Palazzo, flash the signs down to Dave Magadan. They have 116 stolen bases, only been thrown out 40 times. And the guy at first base may not look like a speed burner, Kevin McReynolds, but he can run. He is a good base runner. 15 out of 20 he has stolen this year.
3-2. So McReynolds has gone twice on 3-2 foul balls. That figures he'll be going again. No score, bottom of the second inning. The lights have been on since the start of the game. There he goes, and there goes the ball. Base hit into center. McReynolds on his way to third. So the Mets are in business. Runners at the corners and nobody out.
The Mets have hit the ball hard off of John Wetland. Here, back-to-back singles starting off the second inning. Davey Johnson putting Kevin McReynolds in motion. One thing it does is stay out of the double play. Had that ball been hit right to Willie Randolph, they still would not have been able to get the double play. The Mets would have had a man in scoring position with one out. Magadan, a good contact hitter. Uses the entire field, does not strike out very much. When you look at his numbers, into the plate just over 300 times, yet only 26 strikeouts does he have.
So with runners at first and third and nobody out, Gary Carter is the batter trying to pick somebody up with Kevin Elston hitting back of him. 1 ball and no strikes to Carter. Gary's catching in game number 1,810 in his career. He's hitting 4 of his last 6. This would be his 9th start since coming off the disabled list the 25th of July. Fastball popped up. A meeting at the mound. It will be whom? Murray. John Wetland bailed out of the situation instead of directing traffic.
Number 21. The situation right there, the pitcher becomes a traffic cop. You almost just have the pitcher have to take your eye off the ball. Forget where the ball is. Let the infielders will tell you where the ball is. And there you're screaming. You either scream Murray or you scream Griffin. One of the two. Doesn't make any difference if you feel they both can call it. Can catch it. Then you call one of them off. You can see Alfredo was going and pounding his chest saying, call me, I'll take it.
1 away, second inning. Carter unable to pick up the runner McReynolds from third. Now Kevin Elster with a 5-game hitting streak checks in. Fastball fouled away. Elster has raised his average 40 points over a month stretch. And Ron Pernoski's gone out to talk to Wetland. And so is Rick Dempsey. One thing, Wetland has shied away from throwing that curveball, and he came right with a fastball to Elster. And you can see Lasorda holding his hand out as if to say to Ferguson, that fastball was right over the plate. He's going to have to mix him up, or he'll be in a lot of trouble.
Got to establish that you can get your breaking ball over. Strawberry was way out in front of the changeup when he ended the first inning. That pitch was up in the strike zone. All those little things go into the pitching coach's mind. Not just the 1 or 2 pitches you might make to a particular hitter, but he will keep a running catalog of the type of pitches, the quality of pitches that you're throwing throughout the context of the game.
No balls, 1 strike. 1-1. Dave Magadan at first has not been involved in a base running play this year. They're holding him on anyway. And Kevin McReynolds standing at third. 2-1 to Kevin Elster. Fastball, foul back out of play. So no doubt about it, that's the bread and butter pitch for John Wetland. He's not going to worry so much about getting the curve, and I'm sure in his mind right now, having seen Hershiser wild pitch the winning run over last night, trying to get too much on a curve, and since the curveball is basically his problem anyway, and as you look at Hershiser talking to Fernando, Orel has 6 wild pitches, but John Wetland has 11. So with a runner at third, he certainly doesn't want to throw one of those 55-foot curveballs to the plate. Hit into right field. Marshall coming up, so he's going to have a play. And McReynolds is coming to throw, cut off by Eddie Murray. That was a surprise that Eddie Murray would cut off a good throw because it was low enough to freeze Maggott in at first base anyway.
He looked like he was surprised that he had cut off the ball, whether he had heard something, maybe somebody yelling from the Met bench. You see Kevin Reynolds going back to tag. Marshall has a good arm in right field. And there the wet turf plays a little bit of a trick with his feet. Throw maybe up the line. Possibly Dempsey said cut it, but he did look surprised. He looked around as if he was surprised to catch it.
Maybe he also thought that the grass is wet and you wouldn't get a good bounce, and he would try to relay it to the plate.
You almost get a good bounce off that grass. You get a nice low skip, right quick.
Bobby Ojeda takes ball 1. So the Mets pick up a run on a couple of base hits and a 1-out fly ball to right. Mets 1, Dodgers nothing, bottom of the 2nd inning. If you wonder, the Cubs are at Houston tonight. Montreal is home tonight with San Diego. San Francisco at Philadelphia tonight. St. Louis at Cincinnati tonight. Slice to left field. Moving over for it is Mike Hub. So John Wetland gives up 1 run on 2 hits, and at the end of 2, Mets 1, Dodgers nothing.
Is brought to you by Molson, imported from Canada. It's a breeze going down. By First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protectant. Son of a Gun, what a difference.
The Mets lead the Dodgers 1-0 as we go to the 3rd inning. Alfredo Griffin, Willie Randolph, and then Eddie Murray against left-hander Bob Ojeda. Chase that one. 0-1 to count. Griffin walked in the 1st inning, got as far as 3rd base. The Dodgers have won 4 of 7, but surprisingly, by leaving 9 men on base last night, they have averaged more than 9 left on base in every game against the Mets. And in 3 of the Dodgers' 4 wins, they won by 1 run. And in each of those 3 games, they won on an unearned run. Busted bat, knocked down at third by Johnson, picks it up and got him. Alfredo sounded like he hit it with a guitar. If that bat didn't crack, the ball would have been by Howard Johnson.
Griffin gets jammed on this, and then Howard Johnson gets jammed trying to field it backhanded. Hit right on the heel of his glove. One thing about Howard Johnson is a good, strong arm. Remember that Davey Johnson will use him periodically at shortstop.
The batter now, Willie Randolph. He was robbed of a hit, and a key play it was by Kevin Elster in the 1st inning. Elster went behind second, took a base hit away from him, and prevented Griffin from going to 3rd. 0-1. Willie has been hitting very well against the Mets, hitting over .400 against New York. Perhaps being a little inspired, especially when he comes back here after all of his years with the Yankees. His permanent home is in New Jersey. Ball 2, 2-1.
How about Willie Randolph coming back to New York, stepping off the plane, getting the news of Dallas Green being fired?
And that Bucky Dent was the new manager. He was shocked on both counts. More so, I think, about Dent than he was about Dallas Green.
He had heard Dent's name rumored for about a month, 6 weeks around Yankee Stadium. The feud going on in the press between Dallas Green and George Steinbrenner, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise.
Not so much that George would
Not that it
fire
happened.
17 managers in 17 years, but that it happened now.
Almost inevitable that Dallas Green has gotten this far and done a decent job with the ball club, and then all of a sudden, really kind of out of the blue, there was an inkling that maybe if 10 days to a week ago it might happen, and then all of a sudden out of the blue after the Yanks had won a game, boom.
Randolph was saying he was surprised at the choice of Dent because Dent was so low-key and quiet as a player and teammate and part of the great double play combination that involved Randolph and Dent. Bucky's got the job. High fly ball into left field. McReynolds has plenty of room. After the second inning, when the Mets scored a run, you can see Lasorda gesturing. I think he's saying, you've got to throw that curveball once in a while. And Wetland thought about Tommy's advice. And he's hot. I think he's more hot over the fly ball by Elster that got the run in.
Yeah, I think he's more upset about himself. You look at Wetland's numbers. I mean, 61 innings pitched, only 19 walks, 58 strikeouts. He has the ability to strike somebody out. And it must be on that curveball that he's getting it, because he doesn't look like he has the fastball to strike you out. And I think what Tommy is saying, you've got to go ahead and don't be afraid of that curveball. So forget the wild pitches. To heck with that. You've got to go ahead and use your best pitch.
1-0 to Eddie Murray. Murray took Ojeda deep to right center, and a great running catch by Juan Samuel in the first inning.
How about Willie Randolph hitting the ball all the way to the warning track, left center, that 370 mark. The wind blowing in from left field here. He hit that ball right in the nose. Willie doesn't have any home runs. This is a big ballpark to hit one out of.
Breeze coming out of the east, and that's always a wet wind, northeast, southeast. So we've had some rain. Boy, when you talk to New Yorkers, the very first thing they talk about, grumbling, is the weather this summer. It's been awful, hasn't it?
Boy, I live about 30 miles from Shea Stadium, and we have had some water this summer.
However, I can remember at the start of the year, everyone was worrying about a drought and a water shortage. And see, you got your prayers answered, and now you're unhappy, right?
That's right. Isn't that part of the nature of the
Here we are, the middle of August. I flew back into New York the other day. Flew over Westchester County up just north of the city. I didn't see one brown spot. Usually in the middle of August, I mean, there is brown everywhere.
Ojeda has a red spot. It's on the back of his neck. He has walked 4 in 2 2/3 innings. And the batter will be Mike Marshall. You realize that last year he averaged a walk and a half per 9 innings. This year it's almost 4 walks per 9, and he's already walked 4 today. Mike Marshall walked in the first inning. Fouled away. How about that game we did last week? The 2 tough contending teams in the American League, Oakland and the Angels. Well, we have 15 walks in the game.
Terrible. It was awful. I mean, from a pitch, I hate to say it, from a pitch, just an awful game.
Yeah. 0-1. Foul back. 0-2 the count to Marshall. It's 1-0 Mets. We're in the top of the third with 2 outs.
Talked about how the Mets are running ball club, 116 stolen bases on the year. The Dodgers, 64 stolen bases, and they have been thrown out 43 times. You talk about tough time coming on runs. They've scored the fewest runs. They've left the most base runners on in the National League.
And Marshall chasing one. And the Dodgers go through the third. And at the end of 2 1/2, 1-0 Mets. Bottom of the third inning. It'll be interesting now to see how many curveballs John Wetland will throw in this inning. He tried one there, and it's dipped low and inside, ball 1. Greg Jeffries hit the ball on the button, and Mike Marshall made a good play in the first inning. 2 balls, no strikes. Mets leading 1-0, bottom of the third inning. losses, trying to balance his books. A kid originally drafted by the Mets. Ball 3. Boy, it's really frustrating for Kansas City. Remember, they traded away David Cone for Ed Hearn. They also got another pitcher in that deal, and they didn't protect that pitcher. And now they're suffering from that as well. Not only is Cone having a big year, Hearn has not played, but the other pitcher is Goose Gazzo, who just won his third for Toronto last night. What kind of a person is John Wetland, the poet? Let's listen to a little poetry.
Staring blankly at a sheet of music, being unable to read it, knowing that it's there and exists, and not hearing a sound. My thoughts dwell in lingering sadness, and yet complete happiness prevails beneath, life itself becoming the altar of sacrifice. And though I understand, still I lie awake.
Life itself becoming the altar of sacrifice. And it's been a struggle for him here, as he walks Jeffries and works on Samuel 0-1. Samuel singled and stole second in the first inning, but stayed there. Jeffries held on by Eddie Murray. It's foul down the line. 0-2.
Good speed at the top of the Met lineup. Jeffries 12 out of 17 in stolen bases. Samuel coming into the day 27 out of 37. Samuel strikes out a lot. He hit in the leadoff position after coming over in the Philadelphia trade, and they used Keith Miller for a couple of weeks. In the last 3 days, it's been Greg Jeffries.
You see that fastball, a waste pitch. Dempsey sat off the corner, and Wetland was just showing Samuel that. Now let's see if he dares come back breaking ball, and Dempsey looks over into the Dodger dugout as Jeffries inches off the bag at first. Jeffries has stolen 12 out of 17. Breaking ball down and away, 2-2. Mets run, singles by McReynolds and Magadan, and with one out, Elster hit a fly ball to get the run home. Tommy Lasorda talking to Mike Scioscia, no doubt about pitch selection. And there goes Jeffries, and the pitch hit foul down the right field line, out of play.
Samuel trying to hit the ball in the big hole between Eddie Murray and Willie Randolph on the right side. Willie Randolph has got to play over toward the bag to be able to get there in case the ball hit on the ground for a double play. And of course Murray holding Jeffries on a big hole on the right side.
Runner bluffs, fastball jammed him, and fouled back. Still 2-2. So 11 pitches made by Wetland here in the third inning, and 4 of the 11 have been breaking balls, and you can see Dempsey looking over into the Dodger dugout. Whether he's looking at Amalfitano is another story. 2-2. And there goes Jeffries. The throw down, they got him, and you get the double play on the strikeout. It's not really a hit-and-run play with Juan Samuel, because you know Samuel strikes out a lot. You're just hoping, but Dempsey made a perfect throw, and suddenly 2 down.
Dempsey got the pitch to throw on this time. Remember, in the first time the Dodgers ran, Dempsey got the breaking ball. Here, the fastball, and right on the mark. Definitely a straight steal. Talking about Samuel, a very high strikeout ratio. It would not be a hit-and-running play. Mets just trying to utilize their speed, get another man to scoring position for Howard Johnson.
1 ball and no strike. When you talk about strikeouts, actually Juan Samuel is doing pretty well, because he's had, I think it's 5 years in a row where he struck out over 100, as much as 160 some odd. The strikeout leaders in the National League right now, Andres Galarraga and Jack Clark, the last we looked. In the American League, Rob Deere of Milwaukee was way out in front. He had 129, but he went on the disabled list, so he could be caught. Johnson 0 for 1. 1 ball and no strike. 1-0 Mets, bottom of the third, 2 away. Breaking ball.
like Bo Jackson, struck out 150 times or whatever it was last year, and you take away his strikeouts and factor those numbers in, you know what he hit last year? Somewhere around 390 or something like that. 410, whatever it is.
Checking Juan Samuel, he struck out his high 168 strikeouts in 1984. 2-0.
Doesn't sound like a leadoff hitter, does it?
No way. In fact, that's the thing about the New York Mets. They really are a team in flux right now with Jeffries playing second base. You're wondering about next year. That whole infield could be rearranged a bit. There's some talk, well, maybe Davy Johnson will move Howard Johnson to first, move Jeffries to third, and play Keith Miller at second, or Tim Tuffle, and keep Elster at short. So it is not a pat hand as far as the Mets infield is.
Odd situation for the ball club. Jeffries at second, Tuffle at second, Keith Miller at second. You got Sasser, you got Barry Lyons, you got Gary Carter. You have three catchers on the ball club. All of them could claim to be a #1 catcher.
A drive to center, but right there is Gonzalez to pick it off, and the inning is over. So Wetland threw a few curveballs, and he sets him down thanks to the strikeout and the walk. 1-0 Mets. Rick Dempsey started his professional career in 1967. So Wetland wisely listening to the veteran catcher. As we move into the fourth inning, 1-0 Mets. Also, Mike Socia, the regular catcher, showing good sense, but not really saying anything, letting Dempsey have his say.
Taking it all in, though, isn't he? Just in case so you know the amount of information going into that young pitcher's head.
1-1 the count to Jeff Hamilton, followed by Jose Gonzalez, and then Mike Huff. A fly ball to right field, Strawberry. One away. Friends, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. The batter will be Jose Gonzalez. You know, we were talking before about the Mets coming alive starting August 1st. Doing a little research, history tells you that what the Mets are trying to do is duplicate what the Baltimore Orioles did in 1974. Drive to center, Samuel going deep. That's over his head, and he can't make the play. And Gonzalez, who runs very well, will make it to third easily on a ball that appeared very catchable. It was hit hard and deep. But after looking at Samuel play the first inning, you figure he was going to make that play.
Samuel made a great play on Eddie Murray's ball in the first inning. And again, it brings up the issue of the rain that we had before the game and the footing being just slightly slippery out there. I think on a normal day on a dry track that Juan Samuel would make that play. Here you see it from a different angle. Very, very catchable. Big warning track here at Shea Stadium. Lots of room between the grass and the fence.
So the infield up with one out, and Mike Huff trying to pick up the tying run at third. And that'll be a strike. Take another look, and I think it almost maybe does touch the glove. Very close. Right off the fingertip.
Yeah, the thing is about a wet track like that, you don't run normally. What happens, you end up running on your heels because you're afraid of slipping and your head's bobbing up and down. And all of a sudden that ball is bouncing up and down in your eyes.
1-1 the count to Mike Huff. His contract was purchased from Albuquerque on the 7th of August. He was hitting in the 320s in the minor league. One out, fourth inning. Mets 1, Dodgers nothing. On deck, Rick Dempsey in a meeting. Give us a chance just to tell you about why the Mets are trying to copy the 74 Orioles. In 1974, in late August, Baltimore was 2 games under 500. And thanks to brilliant pitching, won 28 and lost only 6 the rest of the year. In 19 of those 28 games, the Baltimore pitchers allowed 2 runs or less. They even had a streak where they threw 5 straight shutouts. So the Mets pitchers certainly have the same capability. And it'll be interesting to see, and with some degree of irony, if they can do it in the year when Baltimore is atop the heap, at least as of this date, in the American League East. 3-1.
Infield playing in here with one out. Davy Johnson knowing that he's facing a ball club with outstanding pitching. The Dodgers, of course, are not going to give up many runs, and Davy's trying to cut off a run here if he can save it.
Bouncer down to the second baseman. Jeffries looking to run her back and makes the play. The young Mike Huff outwitted by the veteran Bob Ojeda, and Gonzalez is still at third as Rick Dempsey comes up.
Talking about being outwitted, I think you're exactly right, Vinny. For a young hitter just in this situation, the entire advantage going his way, the infield in, a lot of holes. In that situation, the hitter just trying to get the ball, should be trying to get the bottom half of the ball, get it in the air to the outfield. The Dodgers just cannot score. That man from third base, they left him there last night in the ninth inning.
Want to know, so what a contrast now from the kid Mike Huff to the senior member of the ball club. As Mike sits down, Rick Dempsey, who will be 40 in a couple of weeks, in the middle of September. After Dempsey comes John Wetland, and you wonder about Ojeda even bothering to pitch to Dempsey. Of course, it's the classic case number one. Remember, we told you that Davy Johnson hates to give up intentional walks. And all managers like to start the following inning with the pitcher leading off. 2-1.
Rick Dempsey knows it too.
Yeah.
And he's going to sit there and look for a ball on the outside part of the plate and just try and drive it in the hole between Jeffries and Magadan.
2-1 to Rick. 2 out on the fourth. Mets leading 1-0.
So classic about the pitcher says, I was trying to pitch around him, but he wouldn't let me.
Fouled away, and the count 2-2. Mets leading 1-0 in the fourth. The Dodgers have Jose Gonzalez triple, and Lasorda anguishing in the dugout, trying to get the man home from 90 feet away. Two balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3.
There is a setup pitch. A straight fastball up and out of the strike zone. That's the hardest pitch that Ojeda has thrown. And that has to be just a setup pitch to try and get Dempsey out on a 3-2 count.
Time. Airplane from LaGuardia flying directly over Shea, proving to be a great distraction, so Dempsey backs out.
727. I just checked that. Look underneath there. It looks like 727.
3-2. Guy. And Davy Johnson still refuses to give up the intentional walk, and the Dodgers continue to leave a runner 90 feet away. 3-2 pitch again with a runner at third and 2 out to Rick Dempsey.
Very difficult to hit the perfect pitch right on the corner. Gary Carter sets up, and a great shot from center field. Our center field cameraman out there, Dave Hagan. Well, that was a great shot. Right on the corner and absolutely perfect. You can see the reaction by Rick Dempsey, and the veteran, 40-year-old veteran, doesn't like him. It's a tough situation for him, though, because he's got to go back behind the plate, and he wants that same kind of pitch. And he had a very volatile temper when he played every day for the Baltimore Orioles. That's a situation where you have to be a little bit of a politician. Bruce Fleming behind the plate. Listen, you're going to want those same pitches for your pitcher, too.
And Bruce Fleming has tremendous respect in the league for being a great ball and strike umpire. 1 ball and no strikes to Darryl Strawberry. Hammered to right field. Base hit, hits the wet turf, keeps on going to the wall. Strawberry into second base, standing with a double. That's the 4th hit 2. He had a double last night to left center. And now Kevin McReynolds, the batter.
The last 3 innings, the Mets with their leadoff hitter on. McReynolds in the second. Jeffries walked to start the third, and here a double by Strawberry to start the 4th inning.
Kevin McReynolds singled in the second inning. He's hit in 9 straight. 1-0 New York. And again, that fake bunt to try and move Hamilton closer to the plate and consequently open up more of a hole on the left side of the infield.
Bussey wants to get Darryl Strawberry to third base. He has an option of trying to hit the ball on the ground to right side. You can see Hamilton charging from third. Man, given a lot of area between Hamilton and the line.
Curveball, but it stayed up, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike.
My, oh my, how in the world can you give him that much room at third base and then be throwing him breaking balls? Throwing him something off speed that he can pitch. And if you're going to play him that way toward right field, you better keep the fastball on the outside part of the plate.
Breaking ball down and away. They're going to check at first. Swing, says Terry Tatum. And the count 1 ball and 2 strikes to Kevin McReynolds.
Kevin McReynolds will show very little emotion on the mound. Here he's rung up by Tata at first base on the appeal. Very questionable. He just never changes his expression.
1-2. Fastball. So he tried to come inside and jam him after a couple of breaking balls in the count 1-2.
Fastball in a good position, too, up the top, just above the top of the strike zone, especially with 2 outs. The hitter can't let that go. He's got to protect the plate. Remember, Reynolds' job still trying to get Strawberry to third base with 1 out.
Nobody out in the 4th. 1-0 Mets. Fastball makes it 2-2. It brings up a point. It's only the 4th inning. The Mets are leading 1-0. You would figure McReynolds isn't trying to really get him over this early in the game. I would think a fellow with McReynolds' kind of credentials, he's up there to hit the ball anywhere he can.
One of the things you talk about the Mets, why they've been successful, is that they were not doing the fundamentals a month ago. But the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, they have been. They've been bunting. They've been getting the runner over, moving him over to third base, hitting bunt. You can see he's still trying to go to right field. One of the things they have been effective lately doing that they were accused of not doing through that whole period. Remember, they lost the series to the Pirates here. They lost the series to the Cubs if they were playing blase baseball and just not doing the fundamentals correctly.
2-2, the count of Kevin McReynolds with Dave Magadan on deck. 1-0 Mets in the 4th. In the dirt, smothered nicely by Dempsey, ball 3. As the Mets are moving the men around and picking them up, they picked up a runner from third on the fly ball by Elster in the second inning. It points up that note that we gave you earlier about how the Dodgers have been playing against the Mets, leaving average a little more than a man an inning on base. And they've done that again today. They've left 5 men on in 4 innings, and they have left 2 runners at third. 3-2 to McReynolds.
About that pitch. One of the things that pitcher, young or old, makes no difference. Has got to do on the 3-2 pitch. At least give the hitter a chance to make an out, get himself out. Get the 3-2 pitch within reasonable proximity to home plate, where maybe the hitter will swing at a bad pitch. I mean, that's frustrating in the sense you don't even give the hitter a chance to get himself out.
So 2 on, nobody out, and a contact hitter at the plate in Dave Magadan. Strawberry at second, McReynolds at first. Magadan walks more than he strikes out. Ball 1 started him breaking ball at the ankle. So Wetland is struggling. And he has certainly changed since the second inning. He's throwing a lot of breaking balls now. But as we said at the very start of the game, his status in the game will be whether he can get the curveball for strikes, and he has not done it yet. And Lasorda and Perinoski are watching it. Fastball. 1-1.
You're talking about no running plays that Magadan they have put on with Magadan. This does not run well. It's into the plate 300 times. Grounded into one double play. Good line drive hitter. Uses the entire field. The Dodgers playing straight away, infield and outfield.
Line drive. Fair ball. Down in the right field corner. Strawberry will score. McReynolds will score on a double by Magadan. 3-0 Mets.
RBIs number 34 and 35 for Dave Magadan, as he now is 2 for 2 on the day. The ball up in the strike zone and right on the line, down the right field line. Terry Tata, look at it going down there. You see the tuck and look right on top of the line. Terry Tata, the first base umpire, with the call, and Mets jump out 3-0.
Wetland struggling. He is due to lead off the 5th inning, and Mike Morgan begins to loosen up back of him in the Dodger bullpen. Breaking ball, ball 1. So he's throwing a lot of breaking balls, but they're not in the strike zone. So Morgan heating up back of him. 3-0 New York in the 4th. Gary Carter popped up with runners at first and third in the 2nd inning. Fastball, and he was looking for it. High fly ball, and Gonzalez there. Magadan will not try to come over. So Carter late on a fastball that he was looking for, and a fly ball to center.
Yeah, that's the ball he didn't used to miss either. That pitch right there, the middle half pin up in the hitting zone, boy, he would crush it.
That is head-shaking time for him.
Pretty frustrating for him. You can see that's the ball he used to crush right there, and he just doesn't get exactly right, but he just doesn't get to it. Sits on it, and you can see he's hitting it back just about even with his front hip. Doesn't get the bat head out front of the ball. That was his pitch.
One away, Magadan still at second. Kevin Elster, who had a scoring fly ball to pick up an RBI in the 2nd, hits a breaking ball foul, and the count on 1. Boy, it is so tough in the big leagues. I mean, you go out there and you can throw the ball 90. If you can't throw a breaking ball, if you can't change speeds, boy.
And if you pitch 2-0 and 3-1, you're just going to get hit. I mean, make a mistake. Big difference between minor league and Major League Baseball is when you make a mistake, opposing hitters will hit it hard. A great example is Magadan. I mean, he got the ball up in the strike zone. The pitch up where a Major League hitter is supposed to drive it. You know, in the minor league, somebody might foul it back on the screen. Somebody might hit it foul, might pop it up. At the Major League level, they just hit it hard.
I was thinking of my buddy Lee Trevino. He talks about professional golf. And he says 2 things that don't last on the tour are dogs chasing cars and pros putting for par. Well, in baseball, you're not going to last pitching 2-0 and 3-1.
That's the truth.
It is getting a wee bit darker here in New York. There's a definite threat of more rain. And remember, this is not an official game. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning. The Mets leading 3-0. Breeze blowing from left to right. But it is darker than it was about a half hour ago. 1-2. Hard curve, half swing for strike 3, and the out recorded at first. Holding at second is Magadan, and that will bring up Bob Ojeda.
Wetland started to walk off the mound. He thought it was 3 outs. He was heading for the dugout. Just 2 outs in the inning. You know, you think about Wetland, a young pitcher, and you think about Tommy Lasorda, the manager of the Dodgers, and what the Dodgers have done for Lasorda, a former pitcher, and how they brought their pitchers along. They bring him to the big leagues, and they put him in the bullpen. You go back through the history of this staff. Hershiser came to the big leagues and went in the bullpen.
High fly ball to left field. And Mike Huff is there to put it away. So the Mets get 2 doubles and a walk for 2 runs. Lead 3-0. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Miller Highlights. By that man of Miller, the best comes shining through.
It is another chapter after, and all part of the on-the-job liberal education of John Wetland, now engaged in a discussion with pitching coach Ron Perinoski. It is 3-0 Mets in the 5th inning, and Dave Anderson hitting for Wetland, so John is gone. One game going on that we can report on right now. Nick Osaski hit his 23rd home run to give Boston a 1-0 lead. That's an interesting game, especially. The Red Sox have lost 6 in a row. Milwaukee has won 8 in a row and 9 out of 10. And Milwaukee began the day a half a game behind Baltimore. Boston 5.5 back.
The Brewers have picked up 11.5 games in a month. Holy, and they came out after the All-Star break, lost 6 in a row.
I can understand what Harry Dalton meant when they picked up Don Sutton in '82, and now they picked up Jerry Royce, and he said, I hope he'll be like a Don Sutton. Now you know what he was talking about. 2-1 to Anderson. Number up along third, foul, and Dave will come back and try it again. Talking about Baltimore and the American League East, this is the way it was at the start of the day. Milwaukee right back along with Toronto. Then there's a considerable fall off. And then the Yankees 7.5 back. 2-2 to Dave Anderson. Mets leading 3-0, top of the 5th. 3-2 the count. So John Wetland still listening to Perinoski's advice and instructions.
To win unless you know why you lose. That's one of the things every young pitcher has to go through is learning from mistakes. That's one of the keys is learning from mistakes. The quicker you learn from them, the better off you are. A lot of pitchers hard-headed, you know, they sit around and keep making the same mistakes for 10 years in a row.
What was your biggest problem, your biggest mistake that you had to overcome when you started in the big league?
Oh.
Was it control?
Man, no, I always had good control.
Did you tip off any of your pitches?
Didn't tip my pitches off.
Did you have any flaw of maybe opening up too soon? Or
probably mechanics. I think probably something that bothered me my entire career. Strawberry will put that away easily. And probably 90% of every pitch, 90% of the pitchers in the big leagues will be trying to overthrow the ball. That's probably the number one thing of almost every pitcher, trying to overthrow, trying to throw too hard. You must stay within yourself. It's just like a golfer. He gets on the tee, and if he can hit it 250 yards, and that's his best boat, and he's going to try and hit it 265, he'll end up hitting it 235 in the woods. Well, it's the same philosophy that will apply to a pitcher. You can throw it 90 miles an hour, and that's your max. You better not try for 95 because you'll be throwing it 85.
Strike to Alfredo Griffin. Walked and reached third in the 1st inning. Had his bat busted and grounded out. Howard Johnson knocked it down and threw him out in the 3rd. Alfredo 0 for 1. Hits it into right field. Strawberry will have to play this on a wet bounce. So Griffin goes the other way for a base hit, and that'll bring up Willie Randolph. That is only hit number 2 for the Dodgers.
You looked at the board because you couldn't believe it. I couldn't either. I looked at it and said, that's only the 2nd hit. You think of Ojeda. He's gone to 3 balls on 8 of the 19 hitters that he's faced, yet he's only given up 2 hits. Some good defensive plays by the Mets behind him.
And 4 walks. So he's been pitching out of the stretch all day. We're in the 5th. Mets 3, scored a run in the 2nd and 2 in the 4th. 1 ball and no strikes to Randolph. Robbed of a hit by Elster. Fly deep to left. Willie 0 for 2. When they moved him to the number 2 slot in the Dodger batting order, he's hitting close to 325 since they moved him up there. 0-2, 2-0. Talking about moving a man in the slot. First thing Bucky Dent did was to move Roberto Kelly, and that's another part of the Yankee problem, right? Piniella saying he should have been moved. Green angry about that.
Well, Lou Piniella, I mean, legitimately does some of the work for the cable network that does the Yankee games, and in his comments, and a lot of people had said it for a month. They said it for 6 weeks that Roberto Kelly hitting 340 in the bottom of the lineup and move him up at the top, put him in the leadoff position. He had hit leadoff, and in the minor leagues it would be nothing new. A lot of people felt that in time he would be a number 3 hitter. I don't agree that you move him right in the number 3 spot right now. Move Don Mattingly to the number 2 spot. Granted, when you get a new manager, moves in, they're going to do something drastic to make it look as if things are going correctly. Or
he was told.
Or he was told. That's always a possibility with the New York Yankees.
3-0 the count to Willie Randolph. So Bobby Ojeda has been very, very wobbly. The Dodgers have stranded 5 in 4 innings. He's had some great defensive play back of him, and he's gotten 3 runs to lean on. It's 3-0 New York, but he's been shaky. 3-0 to Randolph. On the corner. The Mets have won 14 games this month. The most they had won in any single month this year, 15 in June. So they're making another run. And that's hit down the right field line, but slicing foul back into the stands and out of play. The Mets playing well at home are drawing well, over 37,000 a game. They will go over the 2,300,000 mark today. This was a sellout, although the turnstile count like last night will not be near the seating capacity of Shea. Last night was a sellout. This will be the 13th sellout. They had 46,000 last night. 3-2 the count to Willie Randolph. And there goes Griffin, and the ball fouled away. You know, a reminder, if we could have a shot from the center field camera, if Dave could just take a shot of home plate, it brings up something that David Cohn was talking about last night. He said when he stands on the mound and he looks at that backstop, it is so big and so formidable that as a power pitcher, it makes him think home plate is closer. And David Cohn is 8-0 here at Shea, 21-4 in his career. And he said it's because he's a power pitcher. You were a power pitcher. Did you ever have a thought like that about the backstop?
New to me.
Well, thank God. I'm glad he's not left-handed. But that was his statement in the aftermath of last night's game. 3-2. Griffin goes. Slow roller to third. Johnson's going to have to crank up that gun. Gets him. And down to second goes Griffin as the Dodgers stay out of the double play. Bring up Eddie Murray, who lost an extra base hit on a great running catch by Juan Samuel in the first inning, and he walked in the third.
20th batter that Ojeda has thrown to, and he's already in the mid-80s as far as the number of pitches that he has thrown. Normally a ground ball pitcher that stays ahead in the count when he's pitching well. That's exactly what he was doing, but he has been struggling and getting it done so far today.
I think it was Warren Spahn, a Hall of Famer years ago, who said, you're very fortunate if 75% of the time you go out to the mound with your best stuff.
Yeah.
Very.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah.
With your best stuff, that'd be a lot.
So that means Ojeda is struggling, and he needs every trick.
Doesn't have great stuff to begin with,
no.
As far as stuff is called, when you're talking about Nolan Ryan kind of stuff.
Check swing, comebacker, and that will do it for Eddie Murray and the Dodgers, who lead yet another. They've left 6 in 5 innings, and it's still 3-0 Mets. The bottom of the 5th, and Mike Morgan will pick up the pieces for John Wetland. Mets 3, Dodgers 0, and it'll be Greg Jeffries, Juan Samuel, and then Howard Johnson. Jeffries robbed of a hit by Marshall and walked 0 for 1. Center, Marshall on the dead run, but it's going to be against the wall, and Jeffries into second base and holding with a double. So the Mets had 3 doubles last night, and they pick up their second double today.
A great swing does Greg Jeffries have. It's the kind of swing that they've been looking for all year here with the New York Mets. Jeffries, his 22nd double. He's just hitting .225, but I mean, unlimited potential does this young man have. Beautiful short stroke, getting a pitch that he can handle, and Good power for a small man.
For the Mets now, 4 consecutive innings, the leadoff man has gotten aboard. The only time the leadoff man failed was when Jeffries hit the ball over Marshall's head in the bottom of the first, and Marshall went back and got it. A big high chopper. Alfredo will have to hurry to first to get Samuel. Close play. And on the play, Jeffries advances to third.
It almost looked as if Alfredo wanted to go to third base on the play. There you can see him glancing over at Jeffries. He had thoughts of going to third, but great quick release. Good hands does Griffin have. And he has to get rid of it quickly to get rid of Juan Samuel, who's going to really move down the line. The Dodgers will have to play their infield in now. They're down 3 love. They can't afford to give up any more runs.
Howard Johnson flied to right and flied to center. So Johnson trying to pick him up. He has 5 scoring fly balls this year. The Mets leading 3-0, bottom of the 5th. 4-1. Ray Searage, the left-hander, and Tim Cruz, the right-hander, back on Mike Morgan. Morgan, in his 12th relief assignment, he is 7-11 with a pretty good ERA. Slightly above 2.5. 2-0.
Funny when you look at those numbers, Benny. You talk a guy 7-11 and an earned run average, just over 2.5. You go, wait a minute. It's another indication of how difficult runs have been to come by for the Dodgers.
For quite a while, he led the league in earned run average, and he had a losing record. 2 balls, no strikes. Big overhand breaking ball. 2-1. Morgan knows all about the problems that were experienced by John Wetland, as you see Lasorda talking to Peranowski. Mike was originally signed out of high school, and he was a Charlie Finley idea. You know, the publicity, get this kid out of high school and start him right in the major league. It was an unbelievable thing to do. So it set him off and set him back in his development quite a bit. 2-1. Fouled away. Good fastball. 2-2.
Remember David Clyde in Texas? They did that with him. Young kid with tremendous talent, homegrown Texas product. They brought him right to the big leagues.
Reminds me of Baltimore signed Ben McDonald. Yep. Now, wouldn't there be something in a pennant race if they start him?
They expect him to come to the big leagues in September. The report that I heard, he will go to Rochester AAA for the Orioles, and then they expect him to be with the big league club come September.
Of course, he's a college man as opposed to high school, so there's a little difference. High fly ball. That figured that he would hit it in the air and deep enough. And Jeffries tags up, and he will come in easily. And it is 4-0 Mets. In direct contrast to the Dodgers, the Mets get the opportunity, and they pick up the runner, much to the delight of this crowd. 4-0 in favor of the Mets. Howard Johnson picking up his 75th run batted in. Darryl Strawberry checks in. He flied to left and doubled to right. Strike. Strawberry had a small fracture of the little toe on his right foot. That really hindered his running, but he's able to move pretty well now. 1-1 the count. No guard to protect the foot. That's a sure sign that it is healed. He was hit by a pitch in the middle of June. Fouled away. He had a 2-home run game on the 16th, second time he's done that this year. And he's hit with a double today in 8 of his last 9 and 15 out of 18. So like the other Mets, he has come alive. It's almost as if they left a wake-up call for August 1st.
Talked to Davey Johnson about it, and a couple of reasons that he cites that the Mets have really put on a surge, that Darryl Strawberry has really come alive. His number's terrific. Kevin McReynolds, who had a great second half last year, had 57 RBIs in the second half of the season last year, and he has been on fire. The other reason that Davey Johnson talks about was his pitching staff. He had 4 pitchers at one time here, a month ago, that had ERAs over 4. Darlene Fernandez and Bobby Ojeda. All of them down around 3.5 now.
Fly ball to left field, and that'll be put away, but the Mets pick up a run, and at the end of 5, The Mets 4, the Dodgers nothing. And it'll be Marshall, Hamilton, and Gonzalez coming up. Nothing Mets. It'll be Mike Marshall, Jeff Hamilton, and Jose Gonzalez. Ground ball wide to third, but that's where Johnson was playing. One away. Friends, tomorrow, NBC Sports World adds a little sizzle to the summer with the high-speed drama of the Kart Pocono 500. Indy 500 winner Emerson Fittipaldi and Michigan champion Michael Andretti, two drivers who have battled each other all summer long, will gear up for another showdown in the third jewel of IndyCar Racing's Triple Crown. That's the Kart Pocono 500 tomorrow, only on NBC Sports World. Jeff Hamilton, the batter. One out in the sixth. Hamilton lost a hit and an RBI on a fine play by Samuel and then flied to right. That's foul. 0-1. Boston leading Milwaukee 1-0, bottom of the seventh. Minnesota, Oakland just starting up. Everybody else tonight. In the National League, everybody tonight. St. Louis, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, San Diego, Montreal, and Chicago and Houston.
Funny scoreboard out there, isn't it? They put the Mets score in two places. They have at the top of the National League score, then the regular score.
Right, 0-2.
On. Maybe because they take that middle scoreboard out. Maybe that's why they do that. So they keep the Mets score up there the entire time. There you see the larger part of the scoreboard there.
And 2 strikes to count to Jeff Hamilton. 4-1. In that Minnesota-Oakland game, it'll be an interesting matchup. Rick Aguilera will go against Storm Davis. Oakland battling for the lead in the American League West to beat the Angels. We see Elska take a hit away from Hamilton. And Rick Aguilera, the former Mets pitcher, be very much in the middle of a pennant race, but in the American League West.
Hamilton hits the ball right on the nose, and just Elsa robs him of a base hit. Good range to his right. Kevin, a good, strong, accurate arm. Played extremely well early in the year and went into a slump defensively and offensively, but both ways now, the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has played extremely well with his glove and bat.
Gonzalez chasing a sinker, and the count 0-1. Gonzalez flied to left, hit a ball to deep center that on a dry field, you certainly had the feeling Samuel would have caught it, but not today. And Gonzalez picked up a triple with 1 out, but the Dodgers left him. Now back 0-2.
Important series for the Mets from the standpoint. They're trying to stay in a pennant race the entire time here. They come in last night and face Oral Hershiser, the Dodgers' #1 pitcher. And they beat him. You've got to think sweep. You've got to think at least 2 out of 3, and hopefully a sweep if you're going to stay in a pennant race. They come in and they beat Hershiser on #1. Be pretty optimistic. You see Keith Hernandez getting some treatment on his leg, his thigh before the game.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Jose Gonzalez. Just missed that inside corner. He had them all set up for that. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The Mets have their work cut out because they get the Dodgers now and the Giants coming in. Next week, the Mets will leave and go back out on the road. And remember, they're 10 games under 500 on the road. And they will go to the West Coast and play the Giants and Dodgers. Chopper up the middle. Jeffries right there. And that's that. And for Bob Ojeda, that's the best inning he has pitched so far. And at the end of 5.5 innings, Mets 4, Dodgers nothing. On NBC, Don Shula and the Miami Dolphins take on Joe Gibbs and the Washington Redskins. Preseason matchup, NBC football. Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Bottom of the 6th, Kevin McReynolds, ball 1. McReynolds singled and scored a run in the 2nd inning, walked and scored a run in the 4th. He has hit in 9 straight, hitting .287. 4 runs, 6 hits for the Mets. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. picking up for John Wetland. Ground ball wide, a third. Big hop. Hamilton stays with it to get him. One down in the sixth. Big league reflexes on that kangaroo bounce.
First baseman Dave Mackinnon.
McReynolds going down the line, who has decent speed, but the hop right up to Hamilton the third. We're talking about Morgan in relief of John Wetland, and we're talking a little bit earlier about how they bring their pitchers along slowly. Wetland making his sixth start here today, 24th game that he has pitched in. And you go back to the history of the Dodgers and how they have brought their pitchers along very slowly. Hershiser, when he came to the big leagues, was put in the bullpen for a couple of months and then gradually worked into the starting staff. It's been that way with Orel. Jim Belcher, Fernando was that way. He came along in the bullpen. Bobby Welsh, Sutcliffe. An organization that seems to have a pattern for how they want things done.
Well, the pattern based on the fact that they already have a solid pitching staff, so when they bring a kid up, there's only one place to put him. Now, in a sense, they have broken that mold this year, because since they have been struggling a bit, when they brought up Ramon Martinez, they gave him the ball and said, okay, go and pitch. But basically, they can afford to put a kid in the pen because they usually have a good starter. That's been the trademark of the ball club. Not so the Mets.
The Mets bringing some of their pitchers right to the big leagues. That's the contrast of the two pitching staffs. You know, Dwight Gooden right to the big leagues, put him in the rotation. Ron Darling.
By the way,
David Cone.
Ron Darling, 29 years old today. You might think he'd be older than that. It seems like he's been around a long time.
It does. I believe Dwight Gooden, 24.
Fouled away. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. 4-0 Mets, bottom of the 6th inning. Ron Darling, who was born in Honolulu 29 years ago. Darling was signed after being acquired from Texas. That's hit down the left field line, slicing foul and out of play. The old umbrella trick. Good. Nice going. American ingenuity.
Go Blue. He's got that Michigan t-shirt on, doesn't he?
Boy, one year they had a bit that should have been sent to the Hall of Fame. We had it on a local telecast of a Dodger-San Diego game, and there were 3 kids in the bleachers in San Diego. And I mean, it looked like Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer, etc. And they were lowering a string, and there was a tin can, and they were trying to get a ball that was on the field, and they got it. And Magadan gets himself a base hit. So Dave Magadan having a big day. He is 3 for 3. And that'll bring up Gary Carter. Aronofsky is on the phone again to the bullpen. 4 runs, 7 hits for the Mets. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Gary Carter, while on the DL and for a little while when he came back, was growing a mustache. And then when he came to the ballpark last night, it was gone. Line foul down the line. Oh, my. Please, young lady, stay on that stool. Don't go near bullets like that. Whoa. Hey, well. We're fathers of daughters.
Exactly right.
I thought of my 3 and your 2. And get her out of there.
Pretty smile is nice.
0-1. They were asking Gary Carter around the batting cage last night, how come you shaved off the mustache? And he said, I looked in the mirror one time too often. So if you have a marking pen, you could take a little mark right now on the screen, and you see what he looked like with a mustache. Maybe the folks in Orange County, in Fullerton, Sunny Hills area.
He has given himself a haircut, too. He's got some of those locks off the back of his neck. Summer here in New York is humidity, no wonder.
1-1 to Gary Carter. 4-0 Mets, bottom of the 6th, 1 away. 2 balls, 1 strike. The Mets doing very well on a homestand. They've won 7 out of 9. The Dodgers struggling on the road as they have struggled all year. They are 3-4 on a 12-game trip. When they finish here in New York, the Dodgers will go to Montreal before going home to begin a homestand against Philadelphia, the Mets, and Montreal. Fastball hit foul. 2-2 to Gary Carter.
He's gotten out in front of those two fastballs on the inside part of the plate this at bat. We talked about how he just missed a home run his last time up. Didn't quite get to a fastball from John Wetland. He gets the bat head way out in front this time. I don't know if he went back in and maybe took a bat that weighs an ounce less.
Fastball lifted in foul ground. Eddie Murray coming over in front of the Mets dugout. That's the second out. So Carter, who really got a pitch he can handle in the fourth inning and fly out, is really angry now. I think he thought there was another one that he could drive, and he fouled it out. Look at that.
Well, he has hit the bottom half of the ball 3 times. Popped up in the second, popped up here in the sixth, and, of course, the fly ball in the eighth. Boy, it's tough. That is very frustrating for Gary Carter.
Mets leading 4-0 with 2 out in the 6th inning. We were talking about today being Ron Darling's birthday. It's also a big day in Chicago Cub history, and with the Cubs resting, getting ready for their game with Houston tonight. On this date, in 1969, Kenny Holtzman pitched a no-hitter against Atlanta. Ron Santo hit a 3-run home run. On this date, 20 years ago, the Cubs were leading the Mets by 7.5 games. They lead the Mets by 3.5 games. And 20 years ago today, in that race, the Mets beat the Giants 1-0, 14 innings, as Gary Gentry and Tug McGraw outdueled Juan Marichal. And that, of course, was the year of the impossible dream. 2-0 to Kevin Elster.
Tommy Agee hit a home run in that game, won the game 1-0, and walked in the ballpark today. And who did I run into? Tommy Agee down in the lobby. That's right. Looks terrific.
Busted bad. You could hear it crack, and a comeback into Morgan, and Elster will not use that one again. No runs, a hit, a man left, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Long in this ball game at Chase Stadium, talking about anniversaries of 1969. I'm sure that year really would flood your library.
Lots of happy memories about that year. I tell you what, the Chicago Cubs have played well all year long. They certainly don't want an instant replay of that.
Meanwhile, Bobby Ojeda, who in the past has gotten tougher as the game progressed, is trying to do that after a very wobbly 5 innings. He finally retired the side in order in the 6th. Now he has Huff, Dempsey, and probably a hitter for Morgan. 4-0 Mets, top of the 7th inning. The Dodgers, with all of their splendid pitching, that gave them 13 shutouts. But the team itself has also been shut out 13 times. That's a strike. For Bob Ojeda, he has 2 shutouts and 4 complete games. 2-1. Roller wide at first. Magadan overhanding to Ojeda. Well, there was a lot of English on that ball. That shot was right out of a pool hall. 1 down, and Rick Dempsey coming up.
Good coordination between Magadan and Ojeda. Essential play, basic play that you work on in spring training every year. You look at Ojeda, his first 13 outs, and we talked about him being a ground ball pitcher. Here you get a look at Magadan beating the ball to Ojeda covering, and touch that base with your inside foot and go up the line. The first 13 outs that Bobby Ojeda had today, and 3 ground outs. His fly outs and 3 ground outs. His last 6 outs, all of them have been on the ground, and that's the kind of pitcher that he is. He's a ground ball pitcher.
Rick Dempsey had a very big at-bat in the 4th inning. The Mets were leading 1-0. There were 2 outs. The Dodgers had Gonzalez at third. Dempsey went 3-2 and then was called out on strikes. Ball hit just there, inside third and down the line. And Dempsey on his way for An extra base hit that'll be ruled a ground rule double since a fan interfered with it. So Dempsey doubles with 1 out in the 7th inning, and Lenny Harris will give way to Mike Sharperson.
Turning on the fastball. A lot of room between Howard Johnson and the line. Of course, the Mets now protecting the line with a 4-0 lead. Right down in the corner, and Dempsey has his 6th double of the season.
Lenny Harris was out on deck to bat for Morgan. But when Dempsey got to second base, they'll go with Mike Sharperson and Harris holding the bat, standing behind Mickey Hatcher. So here is Sharperson. He appeared as a pinch hitter last night for Mike Scioscia against Randy Myers, who was throwing hard. And Sharperson, with the count no balls and 2 strikes last night, doubled hard into the left field corner. He's a pretty good hitter. 4-0 Mets, top of the 7th. In there, 1-1. That pitch by Bobby Ojeda is 100th pitch. Which is not bad at all. To put it in perspective, if he throws 15 pitches an inning, 90 through 6, he's very close. But he can't spend too many in this inning.
He threw a lot in the first couple innings.
Yeah,
He's
right.
really settled down the last 2. Think about Bobby. He walked the leadoff hitter, Alfredo Griffin. Since then, from the 2nd through the 7th, he has gotten the leadoff hitter in every inning, getting that first out, which is so very important.
2-2. The left-hander, Jeff Musselman, the right-hander, Jeff Ennis. Going behind Ojeda just in case. And that's driven in the air to right center. Strawberry over to run it down. Dempsey will hold at second base on that second out. So Alfredo Griffin will try and pick him up. Bob Ojeda has walked Griffin, also surrendered a single, and Griffin was out breaking his bat when he grounded to third. So Alfredo hitting .266, 1 for 2. Mets 4, Dodgers nothing in the 7th. Hit in the air to shallow left. It's going to land. McReynolds with a good arm, and they're going to send Dempsey in, and he is safe. Gary Carter was unable to block the plate, and Dempsey was able to beat the tag because Gary left the plate wide open, and Dempsey, who figured to be a poor risk to score on that, just got in because the door was open.
An excellent arm in left field, very accurate. You got to think that Joey Malfitano, the third base coach, knowing that the Dodgers don't have many chances to score, said, let's go, even though Dempsey does not run well at all. Bruce Fremming, the umpire behind home plate, you can see Dempsey slides right into Carter's foot. Looks like he got in there to me. Fremming right on top of it. And as Vinny, as you said before, Fremming, one of the most respected umpires in the National League.
Carter, I think, felt that he had the entire plate blocked, but he didn't. There was a corner of it that was wide open, and that's what Dempsey hit before the tag. See that? See all that home plate? And as he tries to block it, Dempsey just hits right across the middle of the plate, and the tag a fraction late. So the run is in. It's 4-1 Mets. This is a big at-bat now for Willie Randolph. Dempsey finally gets it in. The reason it's a big at-bat for Randolph with 2 outs is Eddie Murray is on deck. And Murray would represent the tying run if Randolph can keep the inning alive. He hits one to center, and Samuel will put that in the ball bag, and that's it. 1 run, 2 hits, a man left. Right now, as Dempsey goes back to work, here's another edition of Characters of the Game. Moving to the bottom of the 7th inning, the Mets holding on to a 4-1 lead. And the Dodgers make another change. Tim Cruz will pick up. He'll be the third pitcher. John Wetland went 4. Mike Morgan pitched 2 innings, allowed 1 hit. Keith Miller is coming out of the Mets dugout, and Miller will bat for Ojeda.
Ladies and gentlemen, batting for Bob Ojeda, number 25, Keith Miller.
Keith Miller hitting .203. Utility infielder to start things off. So Bob Ojeda went 7 innings, allowed 1 run and 4 hits. And Davy Johnson figures it's time to lift him. Don Ossie now heating up in the Mets bullpen. So Miller, Jeffries, and Samuel in the 7th.
No matter what happens to the Mets this year, it'll be interesting this winter to see what they do as far as second base goes, as far as their catching situation, as far as Keith Hernandez. Will they bring him back?
Big hop, and Alfredo picks it off and just did get him. Let's go across to New York for an update.
All right, Ben, this is Marv Albert at our New York studio in Milwaukee. 8th inning, Greg Brock connected for his 9th home run of the season. This with nobody on, so the Red Sox and Brewers now tied at 1 in the 9th going in. Milwaukee with 8 straight wins, only a half game behind the Orioles. Back to Vin and Tom.
Okay, Marv, and with 1 out, Greg Jeffries faking the bunt, 1 ball and no strikes. For Milwaukee, like the Mets and so many other clubs, a team that has struggled on the road, so they're trying to fatten up at home. Milwaukee, 6 games under 500 on the road. Boy, they're playing up a storm now. They've won 9 out of 10 in 8 straight. One and two the count. Jeffries, long out to right, walked and doubled to right and scored a run. Greg 1 for 2. The Mets have won 9 out of 11 as they try to apply the heat to the front-running Cubs. And that's lifted into shallow center. Randolph out, Gonzalez in. It's Jose. 2 down in the 7th. Juan Samuel coming up. Single to left, struck out and grounded out. Samuel is 1 for 3, had a stolen base. Paid attendance, although it was a sellout. The morning rains, the afternoon rains cut down the turnstile count. 38,453 came to the ballpark. That, of course, is the distinction, and a big distinction it is. The visiting ball club is paid according to the turnstile count, the people who are actually in the ballpark. Gonzalez will be the captain of the outfield and put that away. So it's a very easy inning for Tim Cruz, who was undefeated against the Mets last year and yet was ineligible for the league champ. Tomorrow on NBC Sports World at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the CART Pocono 500, the 3rd jewel of the IndyCar Racing's Triple Crown. We go to the 8th inning, and Don Ossie comes out of the Mets bullpen. He'll be pitching to Murray, Marshall, and Hamilton. Swing foul off to the right, 0-1. One thing the Mets have done is shake up and change their bullpen. When you realize they traded away Terry Leach, Rick Aguilera, and Roger McDowell, and they brought over Jeff Innes and then Wally Whitehurst and acquired Jeff Musselman from Toronto. They had Ozzie and Myers. So Don Ossie, who, according to Davy Johnson, is going to get a lot of work. He and Eddie Murray, once teammates at Baltimore. And he's working 0-2 on Eddie. Fastball hits foul down the line, out of play. We mentioned before that this is a sellout, but the turnstile count is cut down, and you might wonder, well, what's the difference? The seating capacity at Shea Stadium is 55,600. So that means over 17,000 failed to come. Bad day. 4-1. However, fortunate considering how heavy it rained at 10 o'clock this morning that we were able to go along without any interruptions.
And then about 1 o'clock, it really poured. A short period of time, but I mean, it was pouring at 1 o'clock.
1-2 to Eddie Murray. Robbed of a hit by Juan Samuel. Walked and hit back to the box. 2-2.
Audrey's going to get more work because of Aguilera going to Minnesota. Remember, the Mets picking up Frank Viola. They traded Aguilera and David West and Kevin Tepani, 3 pitchers, for the #1 left-hander for the Minnesota Twins. Viola's pitched well since he's been here. In a situation where he hasn't gotten any runs all year long. He didn't get many runs when he was in Minnesota pitching for the Twins. He hasn't gotten much financial support, you could say here also. Financially, he's doing well here. But he hasn't had much run support here. Talked to him before the game. He says, as long as I pitch well, the numbers will even out for me.
3-2 the count to Eddie Murray. That pitch inside almost got him. He just did get out of the way of it. Only a pitcher would laugh like that.
Only a pitcher would know and love those high inside fastballs.
3-2. Hit right back to Ozzie. So Eddie Murray hits his second comebacker of the day, 1 out in the 8th, and Mike Marshall will be the batter. Marshall walked, struck out, and grounded out. Dodgers have 4 hits and 1 run. Alfredo Griffin has 2 hits and a walk. The other hits, a 1-out triple by Gonzalez and a 1-out double by Dempsey that led to their only run. The Mets scored 1 in the second on 2 base hits and Kevin Elster's fly ball. They got 2 in the 4th inning. Strawberry doubled, McReynolds walked, and Maganin doubled both men home. And in the 5th inning, the Mets had Jeffries double, and he came home eventually on a scoring fly ball by Howard Johnson. So that's it. 4-1 Mets, top of the 8th. Right. 0-2. Minnesota-Oakland. That's the Aguilera-Storm Davis matchup. Scoreless in the 3rd. Oakland beginning the day 2 percentage points behind the California Angels. 1-2 to Mike Marshall. There are the standings. The difference in that loss column and in the win, and when you work it out, it's 2 percentage points. Fouled away.
Kansas City getting right back into it, too. Good race over there.
4.5 back.
Yeah, they are just 4.5 back, so they are right back in it. It looked all of a sudden like Oakland was going to run away with it. They got Jose Canseco back, and it looks like they're really going to get their team together and then just run away with everything.
Popped up in foul ground. Maganin has some room, but he's running out of it now and can't get it. The ball just started to slice away from him, and the count remains 1-2.
Maganin a little timid going for this ball. You got to get over there first. You got to know how much real estate you have to work with. You can always back up, but he's trying to do 2 things here. Trying to get to the ball and stay away from the fence. The thing to do is try to get to the fence as quickly as you can. And then if you have to, you can always back up into the playing field.
Maganin 3 for 3 today, driving in 2 runs, so he's having a big day. 1-2 in the dirt.
This old 55-footer right there. Ball out about 6 feet in front of home plate.
That's part of the book on Mike Marshall, too. You know, you get 2 strikes on him, go in the dirt down and away, and a lot of times since Mike has a tendency to dive after that outside pitch, he'll go after it, and we saw him do that in the third inning when he struck out.
Oh, he threw that pitch. It looked like it was 3 feet out of the strike zone.
Ground ball to the hole, backhanded by Elster, who sets for the and that's that, the second out. Solid play at shortstop by Kevin Elster. One of the many reasons why the Mets are playing so well. Should they win today, the Mets will have won 8 out of 10 on this homestand and 10 out of their last 12. Getting a report now, Dan Gladden hit a 2-run home run for Minnesota to put them out in front of Oakland, 2-0. And Boston, Milwaukee in a big one, 1-1 in the 9th. 2 streaks on the line. Sox have lost 6. Milwaukee's won 8. And Milwaukee a half a game behind Baltimore. Baltimore is at home tonight against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are kind of a different ball club. They've been playing better ball on the road than they have at home. Fouled away, 1-2.
They'd like to go play the rest of the games that they have in Boston. We just can't lose
15
in
in a
Boston.
row.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Hey, I saw Teddy Higuera pitch the other night for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he was just absolutely outstanding. Good pop in his fastball, good control, good off-speed pitches, a great curveball. Going on the inside part of the plate, really a classic kind of pitching unit. If he is healthy, he will be a big boost for those Brewers going down the last 6 weeks.
So baseball has gotten what it wanted. Gotten 4 races, every division alive and well. Don Ozzie trying to finish up for Bob Ojeda. 2-2 to Hamilton. Hit down to Magadan and right through his leg. So Magadan playing a hop that never developed. He started up and the ball stayed down. He'll draw the error. And that will bring up Jose Gonzalez. He comes up, and the ball goes right under it.
6th error by Magadan, and he just waited back on the ball, not being aggressive. Hamilton, seeing the ball, I can't believe the ball went right through Dave. He's had a couple of tough plays here defensively in the 8th inning.
So that'll bring up Jose Gonzalez. With a runner at first, 2 out in the 8th, 4-1 Mets. That's a strike. Gonzalez flied to left, tripled on a ball that might have tipped the fingers of Juan Samuel's glove in center, and then grounded out in the 6th inning. One ball, one strike. We talked before about John Wetland and young pitchers and pitchers like Mike Morgan coming out of high school. Gonzalez knows what it's like to be a young professional, as he almost took Ozzy's head off with that bullet. Gonzalez, who did not speak English at the time, was signed at the tender age of 16. And it has taken him a while to develop, but he is starting to come now. He's 2 for 4 today. Dodgers trying to capitalize on the error by Magadan. And now, with 2 on and 2 out, they get into that situation where the hitter becomes a potential tying run, and it's Lenny Harris. Meanwhile, in the Mets bullpen, Randy Myers begins to warm up. The Dodgers have used Anderson and Sharperson, so they have run out of right-handed bats on the bench. And Davey Johnson knows that. The other hitters, besides Harris, are all left-handed. Franklin Stubbs with a bad knee, Mike Scioscia, and Billy Beane. So we'll see if Johnson's going to bring in the left-hander, because he knows Lasorda can't counter. That's what he's going to do. So Randy Myers, who was so fortunate last night, and he was the first one to admit it, he barely got by last night. A double and then a two-out line drive, but right at Juan Samuel. So Myers will be right back in the fire today. Mets 4, Dodgers 1, 2 out in the 8th. We'll be back after the save situation. He has saved 20 of them. And among other things, the Mets bullpen has done well. In the last 8 games, the pen has picked up 2 wins and 4 saves. And it'll be left-hander against left-hander. Lenny Harris announced as the hitter for Mike Huff, and so the Dodgers have tapped out as far as right-hand hitters on the bench. Lenny Harris hitting .240 with the Dodgers since being acquired from Cincinnati. Came over with Cal Daniels in the Tim Leary deal. Daniels had arthroscopic surgery, so he can play. Harris built like a football player. He is really impressively built. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Myers a great job last night with the Dodgers in the 9th inning getting the tying run to third base. Struck out Alfredo Griffin, but boy, he dodged the bullet. Willie Randolph hit a rocket off him right to center field, didn't he?
Right on the button. And that's right off his foot. That's a kick save for sure. He could play for the Rangers. The New York Rangers. No runs a hit, and there are 2 left. Your fancy footwork. Watch Randy Myers.
Well, when you're going good, you're going good. The Mets playing extremely well at home, and just pure luck that ball hit Myers on the bottom of the foot. And the poor Dodgers, who can't seem to catch a break and score runs. That ball, base hit, written all over it, right up the middle. They would have gotten a run. A big error by Dave Magadan, but a bigger play by Randy Myers to make the 3rd out. Boy, it must be frustrating for Tommy Lasorda, and you can talk about how it hits him and it stops right there. Doesn't roll away, doesn't go away from him. How tough can it get?
He can't believe that the ball hit the foot that hard and stayed right there. Didn't carry him somewhere. Meanwhile, Howard Johnson into the teeth of the wind, and Marshall, because of the wind, is going to come in to catch it. The breeze blowing hard from right to left. Let's get an update on what's going on in the big leagues. We'll go to Marv Albert.
Thank you, Vin. In Oakland, in the 3rd, facing Storm Davis. Dan Gladden of the Twins hit it out with a man on. Minnesota's taken a 2-0 lead behind Rick Aguilera going in the 8th, percentage points behind the first-place Angels. Back to Vin and Tom.
Darryl Strawberry flied to left, doubled to right, and flied to left again. Johnson would have had his 30th home run if he had hit that ball earlier today. The wind has just picked up, blowing from right to left. Boy, did it cut down that one. 2-0. And there's a one-hopper flag by Eddie Murray for the 2nd out. Watch Mike Marshall. He's gone back, but the wind now is starting to blow it back, and he almost fell down as he had to recover and actually come in towards the infield to make the play.
And you know, when he caught the ball, Hojo was just about 15 feet from home plate. He thought that was a home run number 30 for him. He really crushed it. I mean, the wind is blowing a gale out of right field right now.
Kevin McReynolds kept his streak alive with a base hit in the 2nd inning. He's hit it 9 straight. Billy Bean is the new left fielder since Lenny Harris had batted for Mike Huff. So Billy Bean in left. Of course, when you talk about streaks, you talk about Kevin McReynolds with a 9-game streak. That sure pales in comparison. Jerome Walton of the Chicago Cubs has hit in 28 straight, and he'll put that on the line tonight in the great indoors of Houston. Leading the Dodgers 4-1, it's Rick Dempsey. Then we'll have Mike Scioscia hit for Tim Cruz and Alfredo Griffin. 2 balls and no strikes to count to Dempsey, who walked, struck out, and doubled. There's Billy Bean, the young left fielder, sitting next to Mike Marshall in the Dodger dugout.
Looks like he just came out of American Legion Baseball, doesn't he? Look at that.
He might be a little sensitive about how young he looks now, but not later on.
No.
Not
Give him
later.
about 10 or 12 years.
That's
He won't
right.
mind it a bit, will he?
No, he really, when he arrived in the Dodger clubhouse, Tommy Lasorda thought he was a high school kid who was either going to be the bat boy or just was going to work out. Found out that he was his outfielder. And Dempsey reaches for the third time with 2 walks and a double. Now Mike Scioscia coming up. So the Dodgers now are down to a bench player, Franklin Stubbs, who has a bad knee. And that's it. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Terry O'Neill, the coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, and producer of today's telecast, John J. Filippelli. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, directed by Andy Rosenberg. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Pre-game directed by Mary Buda Lamusio. Technical directors, Marilyn Altman and Richard Sansevier. 4-1 Mets, top of the 9th inning. They're not going to hold Dempsey on. Magadan behind him. Ball 1 to Scioscia. Another technical director today, Jim Marshall. Our thanks to Jim.
Remember the error in the 8th inning by Dave Magadan? Would have been the 3rd out of the inning in the 8th. What that really has allowed the Dodgers to do. They got a single after that, and you remember the ball that Harris hit off of Myers' foot. 2 extra batters came to the plate. It's going to allow the Dodgers to turn the lineup over and go back to the top of the lineup. Very important. They're sitting 3rd for the Dodgers. You get down to Eddie Murray, and he's the one guy that can really have potential hitting the ball out of the ballpark for you.
You know, the Dodgers are in that situation where they're pinch hitting left-hand hitters against a left-hand pitcher. Reminds me, Eddie Lopat, the great Yankee pitcher, was talking about Casey Stengel. And Mel Parnell, back in those days, the classy left-hander for Boston, was just beating the Yankees every time out. That's popped up into that wind. And Jeffries with Strawberry coming on. Strawberry. Anyway, Lopat was saying that Casey Stengel made out a lineup of 9 right-hand batters against Parnell, and by the time they got to the 8th inning, Parnell and the Red Sox were leading the Yankees 3-1, and Stengel hit 3 left-hand pinch hitters. They all got base hits, and they went on to win the game. So sometimes you're forced to go against the books, and it'll still work out. And Lasorda is hoping that somehow that'll occur to him, but he's running out of time now. 1 out, Dempsey at first. Alfredo Griffin walked, grounded to 3rd, and then singled twice. 4-1. Alfredo has done very, very well this year. And a very consistent hitter, hitting just about the same from either side of the plate. In there.
Taking him about a year to bounce back from that broken hand. Of course, he got hit on the hand by Dwight Gooden's fastball, and that really bothered him. Just the strength and the muscles in his hand were not very good. Ellis has been a good offensive player. Talking about how dynamite the double play combo has been in Los Angeles this year.
Fouled away, 1-2. Alfredo also hurt his right thumb this year and then aggravated the injury trying to make a tag in Pittsburgh. But he has weathered all of the injuries and has had a fine year, offensively and defensively. 1-2 to Alfredo Griffin. So after 2 base hits and a walk, Griffin strikes out in the 9th inning. And the batter now, Willie Randolph. And just as we said earlier, Randolph has a very big at-bat in the 7th inning, trying to get Eddie Murray up there with a chance to tie it up with 1 swing. Now, Randolph has another big at-bat, trying to extend the inning and give Murray 1 last shot. Randolph robbed of a hit by Elster, and he is 0 for 4 today. No strikes to count. 2 out in the 9th. Mets 4, Dodgers 1. on the Cubs game in Houston tonight. 1 ball, 1 strike. And he hits it to center. Samuel with a bead on it on the run to pick it off. So the Dodgers lead 10 men on base. They do that every day against the Mets. And the Mets beat them 4-1. The Mets have won 8 out of 10 on this most productive homestand. And they have won 10 out of 12 as they continue to play very well, winning their 15th game in the month of August. Bob Ojeda gets the victory. John Wetland suffers the loss. And Randy Myers picks up his 21st save. Tommy Lasorda, another case of heartburn. We'll be back after this. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. NBC Sports World presents the Cart Pocono 500. And remember, next Saturday, it's the game of the week. The surprising Baltimore Orioles take on the Yankees, or the Brewers against the Toronto Blue Jays, right here on NBC Sports. Well, that wake-up call on August 1st has certainly gotten the New York Mets on the move.
Well, Vinny, the two stories of two teams here really held true. The Dodgers continue to struggle to score runs. They didn't get any breaks today. They hit some balls hard, but right at them. And since August 1st, the Mets 15-4. They keep the pressure on the Chicago Cubs, who have been playing extremely well since August 1st. They are 12-6. So even though 15-4, they've just picked up a couple of games.
Of course, for the Mets to really be taken seriously, they're going to have to play well on the road with their 10 under 500. That's it from Shea. For Tom Seaver, this is Vin Scully wishing you a very pleasant good afternoon from New York.
The proceeding has been a presentation of NBC Sports.
You are looking at Shea Stadium in New York, the fans filing in, and most of you will see the Mets and the Cubs in the third of their 4-game set. The Cubs tied for the lead in the East. And some of you will be looking in at County Stadium in Milwaukee, where the Tigers, who have been struggling, will play the Milwaukee Brewers. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert, and welcome to the start of our baseball day here on NBC. Coming up on the pregame, we'll be talking with the Cubs' red-hot relief pitcher Mitch Williams. Mitch a bit on the unusual side, one who carries his personal bowling ball with him on the road. And we'll also visit with Toronto veteran catcher Ernie Witt, who has a controversial book out that has not pleased American League umpires. The story creating the biggest stir in baseball this weekend, the continuing troubles of last year's American League MVP, Jose Canseco. Now, yesterday, Canseco was arrested for investigation of possessing a loaded and unregistered handgun in his car, which was parked at the University of California in San Francisco. Jose was released on $5,000 bail and was not anxious to talk about it late last night. What do you need a gun for? No comment on that now. Now, Canseco has had a series of brushes with police. Moments ago, the Oakland A's released a statement saying that Canseco carried the gun because of a threat to him and his wife. Jose has been sidelined by a wrist injury. He's not expected back for at least 3 weeks. There are several games just getting underway at this hour. In fact, at Fenway, they now have gone into the third inning, and Kansas City leads Boston by the score of 2-0. It could have been much worse for the Red Sox. Bases loaded for Kansas City. Kurt Stillwell with a fly ball to Dwight Evans. Now, Pat Tabler tagging at third. Left too soon. The Red Sox appealed to the third base umpire, John Shulock, and he ruled that Tabler did leave third too early on the appeal. You'll see Mike Boddicker with a toss to third. Tabler ruled out. That ended the inning. They're in the third. Royals lead the Red Sox 2-0. It's Boddicker going against Gubiza. In games of note last night, out in Los Angeles, Oro Hershiser demonstrated that his elbow is just fine following last week's scare. Hershiser and the Dodgers beat the Giants 3-1 behind Rick Sutcliffe. The Cubs stopped a 4-game losing streak. They beat the Mets 8-4, Sutcliffe extending to a record of 4-0. John Morris of St. Louis made it 4 for 4 as a pinch hitter, coming through with this pinch single in the ninth to break it up. Cardinals over the Expos 1-0 behind Jose de Leon. And it was Bo Jackson with 3 stolen bases to go along with his 5th home run. KC with 7 stolen bases in all, tying a club record. Royals knocked off the Red Sox 7-4. And Dave Steve hits 3-hit ball for 8 innings. Toronto beat Texas 6-3. Steve bouncing back from the worst start of his Major League career. Western leading Texas now 12-3. And when we come back, a talk with Blue Jays catcher Ernie Whitt, who has made some noise with strong statements in a new book concerning a Toronto team that has had its share of turmoil.
NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look.
The start of the 1989 baseball season has brought forth the usual selection of baseball-geared books. The one that has created the biggest stir is entitled Catch, A Major League Life, written by veteran Toronto catcher Ernie Whitt, along with Greg Cable. Now, Ernie Whitt is the last of the original Blue Jays. He was the 17th player taken in the 76 expansion draft. He's been Toronto's most popular player, and he's had a solid 10-year career with the Jays. This is most significant moment, the home run against the Yankees in 1985, leading to a division title. And Ernie Whitt has joined us from Toronto. Now, Ernie, there has been a team turmoil image surrounding the Blue Jays, highlighted by the celebrated George Bell, Jimmy Williams feud of a year ago. You wrote that quarrel inflicted scars that never did heal. Now, why all the bickering on the Blue Jays?
Well, I don't know why they're bickering. Again, that was last year, and it's all forgotten about, and this is a new year. The attitude is a lot better, and basically in the book, I just wrote that it was just an unfortunate year of what happened.
I'd like your reaction to a quote from the book. Now, you said that the newspapers, the fans, the Latin players always emphasize how emotional they are and how they're so moody. I guess there's as much truth to that as there is to any stereotype, but it's really become an easy way to brush off things that happen, and I think it does a real disservice to the Latin players and the team. How have the Latin players reacted to your statements in the book?
Well, I don't know whether they've read it or not, but again, I speak the truth, what I saw here, the inside, what I saw, and, it's not only the Latin players, but the American players, the black players. I mean, we all have good days and we have bad days, so, again, it's not as big a deal as people's making out of it.
Well, you made the point that there are too many groups, cliques, on the ball club. There's a Latin corner, you wrote a black corner, a white corner, instead of mingling and mixing. It's almost like the clubhouse is segregated. What can a ball club do about that situation?
Well, again, that was last year, and I think a lot of it had to do with what occurred during spring training last year, and it just segregated all the groups. Again, it was something that I saw that started in spring training, and it went throughout the season last year.
Ernie, much attention has been brought to your book by your comments regarding umpire Joe Brinkman. Now, you say that he made calls and still makes calls against the Blue Jays because he dislikes the team. You wrote that Brinkman hates our ball club. He's gone downhill as an umpire. Umpires hold grudges, and there are a few crews that just don't like the Jays. Now, Brinkman would not comment. Do you fear a lawsuit down the road from Joe Brinkman?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a personal opinion on my part. I didn't say he was cheating or anything like that. I think every ball club runs into an umpiring crew that they have a hard time with. I think that's reality. And, I said 4 years ago, I think Joe Brinkman was one of the best umpires. And, I'll be the first one to congratulate him if he improves. There's nothing more I can say about that.
If he improves. I understand that he is working home plate today as your ball game. You think the two of you will have anything to say to each other?
Well, the only time will tell. Again, I wrote the book, and I stand behind what I said. And again, hopefully he will improve. Again, 4 years ago, he was one of the best umpires in the league, and I don't know what happened after that.
Now, I'm told that some of your teammates were upset that those statements about Brinkman and the umpires were in the book because they feel now Toronto will not exactly be a favorite of some American League umpires. Does that concern you?
It doesn't concern me because the umpires are professional. They're paid to do a job out on the field, and I don't think anything will stand in the way of that.
Ernie, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mark.
All right, great number of forthright comments made by Blue Jays catcher Ernie Witt in his new book, Catch a Major League Life, Ernie pulling no punches. Now, one of the major reasons for the good start of the Chicago Cubs has been the relief pitching of the hyperactive Mitch Williams. We'll be back with Mitch in a moment. If you're feeling a little down, Richardson certainly lift your feelings. Mitch Williams has certainly lifted the Chicago Cubs. He has emerged as one of baseball's top relief specialists with 6 saves, his first 6 save opportunities. He's been instrumental in the Cubs' fast start. Mitch coming to the Cubs in that 8-player deal with Texas involving Rafael Palmeiro, Jamie Moyer, Paul Gilgis, following 3 years with the Texas Rangers. And Mitch has joined us from Shea Stadium. Now, there are many who feel that you are the perfect closer. You strut in from the bullpen, you look to intimidate. And I know that one-time reliever, the mad Hungarian Al Rabosky, was one of your heroes. Mitch, what did you get from Rabosky?
Well, just from watching him pitch, it was the feeling that he was afraid of nobody. And when I go out on the mound, I like to think that I'll challenge anybody that'll walk up to the plate. I have fun doing what I'm doing, but the intimidation factor and letting people know that I'm not afraid to pitch to them is probably what I got from him.
I get the idea when you're sitting around the bullpen, you go nuts just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. Teammates tell me you're somewhat on the hyper side. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm not one to sit around. I like to be up doing something, and for 7 innings out of the ball game, I have to sit there on my hands and try not to embarrass or bother anybody else who's down there. So it's just something that I have to deal with.
Now, what is this about you carrying around a personal bowling ball with you on the road?
Well, I started doing it last winter with my wife, and it was just something I did for fun, and then I found out once I started trying to throw the ball again to get ready for spring training, I didn't have the pain in my elbow that's been there every winter. So it was just something I used to train with, and now I take it on the road with me.
So that is somewhat unusual. The bowling has actually helped strengthen your arm.
It did a lot for me in spring training. This was the first spring training in 4 years that I didn't have pain in my elbow, so it helped me out a lot.
Mitch, your parting with the Texas Rangers was not all happiness. One former teammate, pitcher Jeff Russell, criticized you for not being a team player. Now, what is your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction to that is that it's an absurd statement, because I would get upset if I didn't pitch, but I wasn't getting upset at the reasons they thought. I wanted to pitch. I wanted to help our club win. And when I was sitting down there in the bullpen, not being able to do anything to help us win and watching us lose like we did, it was very frustrating. And they took it in a way that I was a selfish ball player, and that's just not the case.
How would you describe your personality in 15 words or less?
Well, I'm very carefree. I like to have fun doing what I'm doing. When I take the mound, I'm probably not anyone's best friend, and I'm not trying to be. I have a job to do. So my personality is probably carefree until the bell rings, and then I get businesslike.
And a little hyper also.
Right.
All right, Mitch, thank you so much for coming on.
Mark, can I say hi to my wife and kids back in Texas? I say hi, Dee, Lindsay, and Jamie.
And the bowling ball is safe with you on this road
Right.
trip. All right, Mitch, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mitch Williams, relief star for the first place Chicago Cubs. They'll take on the Mets out at Shea. Many of you will see that game. Vince Scully and Tom Seaver ready to go, incidentally, after 2 weeks of rainouts. It appears Vin and Tom will work today. The weather here in New York, no problem. Some of you will see the Tigers and the Brewers from Milwaukee with Bob Costas and Tony Kubek at the mic. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marv Albert. Now let's go to the ballpark.